Hey everybody, Miss Hicks is here. Read chapter 23 of Things Not Seen by Andrew Clements. Long Lost Sister. I half wake up wrestling with a dream. This guy named Hoffman has kidnapped Alicia and locked her away in a tower, and I'm going nuts looking for a way inside. Then I discover a secret panel that looks like thick pink glass, but it's just a hologram, and I walk right through it. Inside, Alicia is chained to a table, and these electrodes are hooked up to her temples, and she's straining at her chains, and beams of sharp green light are shooting out of her eyes and burning holes in the ceiling. Hoffman is wearing a caveman suit made out of old brown pants tied on with neckties, and he's got his hands on the power dials. And behind him, there are two jail cells with Mom in one and Dad in the other. I sit up in my bed and force myself to wake up. The clock on my dresser says 9:20, and I know it's Wednesday, and I'm in my house in Hyde Park, and I'm glad all that was a dream. Not that reality is a whole lot better or less random, and I don't like that image of Mom and Dad behind bars. I have to shake off the feeling of dread, because if you let it, the fear just keeps coming. I do my best thinking in the shower, so it's odd to see the tiny streams of water bounce around, see the shapes of my hands and arms and legs. Warm water runs down my back, and I plan out my talk with Sheila Borden, because that's the big event for today. Maybe the biggest event in my life. Maybe hers too. I turn off the water and drip dry a little, slide back the curtain and step out of the tub, and there's no towel. I open the door and I'm about to yell and see if Mom is still home, but I hold the yell just in time because I hear Mom talking down in the entry hall, and I know the voice that answers her. It's Miss Paget. I creep to the banister at the top of the stairwell. I can't see either of them, but the acoustics are great. The problem is that I've now heard from the Florida authorities, Mrs. Phillips. They have called and visited the home of Mrs. Ethel Layton and have gotten no response day or night. Seems your Aunt Ethel has vanished, so we'd like you to tell us where she and your son might be. Mom laughs lightheartedly and says, "Well, that's Aunt Ethel for you. She's a little flighty sometimes. When I talked with her Monday afternoon, she said Bobby was feeling so much better. She said they might do some day trips, maybe even go up to Orlando. But surely, Mrs. Phillips, you must know where your own son is. You don't seem worried at all." "Why should I be worried? Aunt Ethel is my father's sister, and I have known her all my life. I've known Bobby all of his life. They're two very stable people, and I'm sure they're just fine. And when they get a chance, they'll check in. And I am so sorry that this is proving difficult for you and your friends in Florida." Mrs. Paget takes her time answering. "Mrs. Phillips, this isn't difficult. Difficult is when a child is declared to be formally missing under suspicious circumstances, because at that point, the full resources of the state of Illinois jump into action, and possibly the FBI as well. When that happens, these things often get into the newspapers. It can affect lives and careers. It can get quite messy and difficult." "That sounds a lot like a threat, Mrs. Badger." "My name is Miss Paget, and it's not a threat. It's a promise." Mom pauses. "Do they teach the people in your agency anything about the United States Constitution? One of the best ideas in the Constitution is the little part about how a citizen shall be presumed innocent until proven guilty. Proven. Tell me, do you happen to bring another search warrant this morning?" "No." "Fine. Then you have a nice day, Miss Paget." And the front door slams shut. It can't be a good idea, treating the woman like that. I'm not sure I like having Mom act like some tough guy from a Clint Eastwood movie. But as with almost everything else these days, it's out of my hands. So I get on with business as usual of finding a towel. As I grab a quick breakfast, Mom is cleaning up in the kitchen. She doesn't say anything about Miss Paget, and I don't ask. But I can tell she's on edge. I'm glad she has a 10 o'clock class. It'll get her mind off the long arm of the law, and it'll also get her out of my way. 10 minutes later, Mom's gone, and I'm at the desk in my room. I have some notes on a pad of paper. I know what I'll say if I get an answering machine, what I'll say if Sheila picks up herself, what I'll say if it's a kid or a boyfriend or someone. And I think I know how I can get her to tell me if she knows anything useful. As I punch in her phone number, I'm being careful. For myself, I mean. I'm being careful not to get my hopes up. I'm just going to ask this lady a few questions. If her answers help, fine. If they don't, then I go back to the big list and call another 100, 200 people, whatever it takes to see whatever there is to see, which might just be nothing or everything. Yes, and then a throaty cough. A woman's voice, sleepy, the voice of someone who smokes cigarettes. Sheila Borden. Yes, that's right. Awake now, on guard. I'm calling because I think you might be able to. Are you one of those kids from Students Against Drunk Driving? Because I already said no to you people 2 days ago. No, it's nothing like that. I'm calling because of something else. I'm calling because I talked with your father last night. And you talked to my father? About me? Now there's an edge in her voice. Fear, maybe a little anger. No, not really about you, not specifically. And this is the scary part of my plan, because I've decided to just tell the truth, because it takes truth to find truth, right? That's what my dad says. And then what's the risk? She has no idea who I am. I'm just this voice on the phone. So I say, I called your dad because I woke up one morning about 3.5 weeks ago and I was gone, just like you. Tick, tick, tick. Then she says, what are you talking about? You got up one morning and you ran away from home? And I notice she's not hanging up on me. She's talking, thinking. I say, I didn't run away from home. From school, yes, but only kind of. I pause because I want her to have time to think. I was just gone. She's angry now. Is this some sort of a prank? I don't believe that you talked to my father. Anybody could call anybody and say that. What's his address and phone number? I'm ready for that one. I read off the information. Okay, so you talked to my dad. So what? What's this got to do with me? How come you're calling? So I use my big question. When I say that I woke up one morning and I was gone, what do you think I mean by that? Just the slightest hesitation. Then she says, how should I know what you mean? Just take a guess. That's all I'm asking. First guess. Like I said, that you ran away from home. Nope, guess again. You don't know who you were? Amnesia or something? That's closer. Guess again. Hey, you know what? Goodbye. That's what. And she slams her phone down so hard that I hear it bounce off onto the floor. Hear her swearing and grabbing for it. And then a second slam, and the line goes dead. And I'm afraid I've lost her. Really afraid. I punch redial. 2, 3, 5 rings, and the answer machine picks up. It's her voice on the message, all bright and cheery and efficient. This is Sheila at Elish Technical. Leave a message and send an email from her website, elish.com. That's EILASH.com. Bye. Then there's the beep, and I'm rushing. I'm rushing to say everything, and I'm talking way too fast. And I'm probably saying too much, but I don't care. Sheila, I didn't mean to get you mad or anything. I'm just trying to find something out, because I really did wake up that morning, and I really was gone, like I couldn't see myself. That's what I mean, and I'm trying to figure it out. I have to figure it out. I have to. And I just thought that if she picks up the phone and I hear her answering machine click off, there's a deep tiredness in her voice, a weariness. You can't just call someone up and say, I turned invisible one day, can you? And I know. I don't believe it yet, but I know. I gulp and I fear tears at the corners of my eyes because it's like I'm finding a lost sister or something, like a reunion with an army buddy, an old Greek warrior. So it really did happen to you too? Almost a whisper. Really? Then how did you find me? So I tell her, and she's blown away. A blanket? That's so wild. A blanket from Sears. She pauses, then, oh man, we could be talking about a big lawsuit here. Sears, for God's sake. Big money. Do you realize that? Millions. She wants to talk, I can tell that. But I look at my notes and have to keep my own program. So, can you remember the date that it happened to you? She laughs, and there's bitterness in it. What do you think? Of course I can. January 12th, 3 years ago. Hard to forget a day that totally scrambles your life, don't you think? And then she needs to talk. And I listened to her whole story. How she panicked that morning, how she started to tell her parents, but then stopped. She actually lived at home 3 days after it happened. She saw her parents crying about her. She lived in her own room, learned to sneak around, learned how to carry small stuff between her arms and her rib cage. She stole her dad's savings account information, went to the public library, used the internet, and transferred $4,000 into the account she'd used at college. Then she set up an account for herself at a bank in Miami and transferred the money there. She stole it because she didn't know what else to do, which tells me a lot about her and about me. Because the first thing I did when it happened was tell my parents. She didn't feel like she could do that. I want you to think about how he said he could tell his parents and she didn't feel like she could do that. So these same parents that he talks about how annoyed he is and how overbearing they are and all those things that make parents look annoying. But when it really comes down to it, he knew he could count on those parents and he knew he could tell them. And this girl didn't feel like she could do that. So I think that says a whole lot about the love and the relationship between Bobby and his parents, despite the fact that he has a little bit of a teenage attitude with them sometimes. I ask, why Florida? Why do you think? Ever try walking around naked in Denver in the wintertime? And I see why she went south. She took a plane, just rode the bus to Denver International, found a flight that wasn't too full, and walked on. Sat up in the first class and stole food from people who were sleeping. At a public access terminal in a Miami library, she found a cheap apartment and paid the deposit electronically. Didn't you have to sign papers or something, like in person? Ever see a Muslim woman completely covered in a black veil? That's what I did. No one even blinked. I wear it when I go grocery shopping too. There's a pretty good sized Islamic community around here. The only bad part is when I'm at the supermarket and another veiled woman comes over and starts yakking at me in Farsi or Urdu or something, and all I can do is nod and say salam. But other than that, it works great. For the past 3 years, she's been earning good money designing websites. She bought a fast computer that was delivered to her door, bought some good software, and learned how to use it. I had plenty of time, know what I mean? And the internet, it's made for people like me, like us. You don't ever have to go outside if you don't want to. I find design jobs on the net. I work at home. I upload my projects over the net, and I get paid by direct money transfer into my accounts. Works great. What about like friends? She laughs, but there's a hollow sound to it. You mean like a boyfriend? Not a chance. I didn't like men that much back when they could see me, and they didn't like me so much either. I used to miss hanging out with my girlfriends from back home, but I'm over it. I had a parrot for a while, but it died, so this is simpler. I do my own thing, and that's all there is to it. What about doctors and dentists, stuff like that? The only thing I worry about is if I get really sick. I had the flu last winter for about 2 weeks, and I almost thought I would have to go to the hospital. But I just took a bunch of aspirin and toughed it out. How about if things got serious? I've thought about that. First, I'd find a very rich woman doctor, the richer the better, and I'd walk into her offices wearing my black outfit. When we're alone, I'd remind her that she's required to keep my condition a secret, and I'd make her sign a promise of complete medical confidentiality. Then, I'd take off my veils, and if she ever broke her promise, I'd sue her right down to her pantyhose. This lady's definitely a Greek warrior, only she's probably tougher than the guys were. So, no other friends? 2, both women, people I can trust. But that's enough. Never had all that many friends anyway. How about you? Kind of the same. At first, it was just my parents. Then I started talking to this blind girl. Interesting. I thought about that too. So does she know? Yeah, but she's been great about everything, and her parents too. So how long has it been for you? Less than a month. Uh-huh. But I think there might be a way to reverse it. At least that's what I'm working on. And now I found you. If we figure it out, you'll be the first to know. So you really think there's a way back? I hope so. Well, let me know, okay? Absolutely, I will. What's your name? Bobby. Bobby Phillips. It's nice to talk to you, Bobby. Yeah, it's good to talk to you too. I don't know what else to say, and I'm about to sign off. Then she says, Bobby, you have to promise me something, okay? Sure, I guess so. What? I don't want you to tell anybody about me. Nobody. It's kind of too late. I already told Alicia I was going to call you. She's the blonde girl. But she doesn't know anything else about me, right? Yeah. So keep it that way. Don't tell her. Tell her you couldn't reach me or something. Tell her I'm dead. Tell her whatever you want to. I don't want to lie to her. She'll keep everything a secret if I ask her. Easy for you to say. What if she decides she needs money 2 years from now and she writes me out to some sleazy supermarket tabloid? Then what? Then I'm screwed. That's what. Alicia's not like that. Remember, she knows about me too. I trust her. But maybe that's because you're young and don't know any better. Or maybe you're stupid or something. I'm about to start shouting when she says, Sorry, I don't mean to sound nasty about this, but I've had to move twice in the last 3 years because I thought I could trust some people. Things like that happen, and it makes you pretty paranoid. Well, look, if you've got to tell this girl and I can't stop you, then I can't stop you. But don't tell anybody else. And make her promise to keep it a secret, okay? It's important. Do you understand? Yes. And you promise? I promise. And I know Alicia will too. Good. So, good luck. I hope everything works out the way you want it to. Thanks, me too. And I'll get back in touch if there's any news. After we say goodbye, I flop onto my bed and look at the ceiling. I need to take stock of what I know. 3 years. She's been gone for 3 years. So this is not a temporary condition. That's one thing I know. This condition did have a specific cause, and the blanket is part of it. I'm sure of that now. But the blanket's not all of it. If it was just the blanket causing this, then more people would have been affected. Then again, maybe more were, and I just haven't called them yet. And I know that it happened to Sheila on January 12th, 3 years ago in Denver, Colorado. And it happened to me February 23rd, both in the winter. Duh, big coincidence. Winter is when you use an electric blanket. But still, I've got 2 locations, 2 blankets, and 2 dates, plus 2 invisible people. And lying there on my bed, tracing the maze of cracks in the plaster on my ceiling, I face a fact. What I've actually got is only slightly more than nothing. Chapter 24. First class work. Any physics nut will tell you that there's never nothing. I've been hearing this from Dad all my life. Now I get it. For example, split the atom and you get neutrons, electrons, and protons. Keep splitting and you get neutrinos and quarks and muons and antiquarks and mesons and on and on and on. Smaller and smaller and smaller. Less and less mass, more and more energy. It all gets down to the little things, like 2 blankets, 2 cities, 2 dates, and 2 people. After I talk to Sheila, I don't see how the facts can add up to anything, but it's never just about the facts. Sherlock Holmes proves that, case after case. It's all about what you do with the facts, how you look at them. When I do an instant message to Alicia on Wednesday afternoon, she starts right in asking me a million questions about Sheila. How did she react? What did she sound like? Was she happy? Does she have a boyfriend? Is she excited about finding someone else like her? On and on. Instant messaging with Alicia takes forever. It's not the connection, because she's got one of those lines that's always connected. It's because the text-to-speech function on her end has to say everything out loud before she can type back an answer. I finally have to shut her off because I just need to think about what to do. But Alicia doesn't want me to think about it. She wants me to call my dad and tell him the news, and then have my dad call her dad so they can talk about it. Bobby. No can do. I promised Sheila I wouldn't tell anyone about her except you. I told her I had to tell you. Had to? Why? Isn't that obvious? Maybe. Tell me anyway. I told her I wouldn't lie to you. So touching. Still, you have to tell your dad and my dad. They can help. I'll think about it. Don't think. Do. Time's up. It's time to do. Don't be bossy. Do. Gotta go. Coward. I'm not. R2. I'm not. I don't want to break a promise. So just give the dads the info. Don't give the source, but they have to have the info. And maybe more. You might have to call your girlfriend and talk back and talk real nice to her, all kissy. Ha ha, so funny. So call your dad, okay? Okay. Bobby, you answer me. Okay, bossy. Flattery will get you nowhere. I'm already nowhere. So true. Bye. Let me know. Promise. Bye, bossy. I start to dial Dad's number 3 times, and 3 times I stop. I found this woman, not him. It's my discovery, not his. But after I wrestle with it for about 5 minutes, I know I'd be stupid not to tell him. And I'll still be the one who found her. That's not going to change. When I reach Dad at his office and tell him, he almost goes nuts. What? You're kidding. This is fantastic, Bobby. Hold on, I've got to shut my office door. Then comes the hard part, because he wants to know everything, but I'm not telling. Dad, I promised to protect this other person. So all I know right now is that it happened in Denver, Colorado on the night of January 12th, 3 years ago. And the same kind of blanket was being used. And this person is about how old? Does that matter? Could, Bobby. Everything could matter. Like what kind of house it happened in, any other appliances in the room, the exact location of the house. Everything could be very important. Well, all I can tell you right now is the date and the year and the place. If we need more, I could maybe call her back and, aha, so it's a woman. See, that could be important because men and women have different chemical makeups, different muscle densities. We need more data, Bobby. The more, the better. Dad's giving me the 3rd degree, major interrogation, and it really ticks me off. For the past few years, I've just been gritting my teeth and kicking my door and swearing under my breath at him about stuff like this. I know he's excited, and I know that the guy lives for data, but here I am. I'm telling him I've made a promise, and he acts like that doesn't matter. I'm about to shout something and slam the phone, but instead I get this calm feeling, and I say real quiet like, Dad, this lady wants to stay out of all this, and I promised her I'd respect that. So I'm not telling anyone, not even you. When I make a promise, it has to be real. I guess I must have sounded like the president or something and did so quiet for a second that I think maybe he fell off his chair. Then he says, of course, you're right. Sorry, Bobby. We'll work with this and see where it leads us. Quite right, son. Have to keep your word. And it's like the whole world has shifted about 10 feet to the right. I'm not where I used to be, and I see it. And Dad sees it too. And he sees me, seeing him see me. Anyway, he says he's going to call Leo. That's Professor Van Dorn. And he'll talk to me tonight when he gets home. Then he says, I don't know how you located this woman, Bobby, but it's not a small thing. This is first-class work, son. First class. It's the tone of his voice that gets me. He doesn't say, I'm proud of you. He doesn't use those words, but that's what I hear. My dad's proud of me. Chapter 25, Bingo. Relational database analysis. I had never even heard those words until Dad comes home from the lab and starts making dinner on Wednesday. He's got my invisible hands busy chopping celery and carrots while he cuts up chunks of chicken for a big pot of soup. And he's gushing about his talk with Dr. Van Dorn. The professor says he was sure the blanket was part of the cause. And he's all excited because he says he can do tons of research just using those 2 dates in the 2 locations. And that's because of this relational database thing. Condensing 15 minutes of Dad talking as fast as he can into about 4 sentences. This kind of data hunting is basically like using an internet search engine, except it's more precise and it uses monster computer power, like Cray supercomputers, the real deal. So you load in your data, you give the search program some clues about what sort of results you'd like it to look for, and then you push a button. And it combs all these scientific articles and catalogs of events and phenomena and facts and theories. And if anything matches up anywhere in the scientific records, in any language, anywhere in the world, it finds it and spits it all back at you. Pretty cool. But you have to know how to program the thing, or else you get swamped with junk data. And who's one of the top people at doing this kind of search? Our pal, Dr. Van Dorn. And an hour and a half later, when we're just sitting down to eat homemade chicken noodle soup, the doc himself is pounding on our front door. He walks right in, puts his old briefcase on the dining room table, yanks it open, and pulls out a stack of wide green bar computer paper. His eyes are wild, and he's talking so fast that little bits of spit are flying around. This has got to be what we're looking for. I ran the search 4 different ways, 4 different sets of parameters, and the same data from the ACE spacecraft project kept showing up. Ready? Solar wind. January 12th and February 23rd, 3 years apart, and on both dates, the upper latitudes of the U.S. from the Rockies to the Grand Lakes were stratified by a major burst of accelerated solar particles and radiation, the kind that knock out power grids and send the big jets diving for lower altitudes. Not true solar maxima or anything, but the bombardment on both dates was way, way up on the scale, and the Earth's magnetic field was significantly distorted. So, Dad is looking over the professor's shoulder, nodding, his dinner napkin still tucked into the collar of his blue dress shirt. So this blast of high-energy particles cuts through the exaggerated electrical field caused by the faulty blanket controller, and bingo! No more Bobby! Exactly. And of course, we don't really know how or why, and we're a long way from really understanding the interaction of the forces. But I'm almost certain we know roughly what caused it. We've got a strong electrical current field, magnetic disturbances, and an extreme particle flow. Has to be it, don't you think? Has to be. Dad is nodding, and his eyes have that far away in physics land look. Mom asks what I'm thinking. But Leo, how can we reverse the process? How do we get things back to normal? And how do we do it before the police come to haul us away? Dad and Dr. Van Dorn look at each other just for a second, and it's like they're holding this high-level silent conference. And I see everything, and it's almost like I hear them talking back and forth. Incredibly complex, possibly years just to develop a workable theory, hundreds of variables to isolate the test, not to mention questions about body chemistry and environmental factors. I can see this kind of stuff flashing through their minds. Then Dad says, hard to say, Emily. Maybe a week, maybe longer. And the look on Dr. Van Dorn's face says, maybe years. I see it all. I can't take it. And I'm not hungry anymore. I push my chair back and stand up. You're not being honest, neither of you. Even if you've found the cause, really figuring it out and reversing it could take forever. And we don't have forever. I'm now wanted by the law in 2 states, and Dad isn't going to get to do much research in jail. So tomorrow, we call that lady and we get her over here and we tell her. Then, we tell the university and the people who run Fermilab, tell everybody, show them. Then we don't have to act like criminals. Then there will be tons of research money and facilities, and we can really figure this thing out. Dad looks at me, at the space above my collar where he guesses my eyes are, and there's so much sadness in his face. Bobby, Dr. Van Dorn and I discussed the situation when we spoke this afternoon, and we both decided that we do not want this to become public. Not ever. It's too dangerous. I mean, it's not like the Manhattan Project or anything, not like developing a nuclear weapon, but still, this kind of science can hurt people. Do we want invisible soldiers and police and spies all over the place? Or invisible criminals? Can you imagine the level of security we'd all have to live with if this technology becomes widely known? And even more important, do we want to sacrifice any chance for you to eventually have a normal life again? We've each promised to keep this an absolute secret. Just our 2 families. The business with the police will go away. It has to. They can't prove anything. No motive, no crime, no evidence. Your mom and I talked, and really, all we've done wrong is lie about you going to Florida. And we can just say we did that because you'd run away, and we wanted you to have time to come home without any penalties or bad effects on your record at school. Parents can't be punished because a kid decides to turn away from home. So we just have to change our story. I'm sure this is the best way. We're all sure it is. During this speech, it's like I'm in a time machine. All I hear is what I've been hearing for 15 years. Everyone else has decided what's best for me. They're all sure. They've made up their minds, and now they're telling me. They're telling me how they've decided my life will be. I'm a runaway. I'm a fugitive. I'm a milk carton kid. I'm officially missing. They've decided. My jaw muscles tighten. I feel my face twist, feel my hands clench. They have such good plan for me. I want to scream. I want to froth at the mouth and swear and stomp my feet and break up some chairs and throw chicken soup all over the place. And I want to yell, it's my life. You can't leave me out of the decisions about my own life. You are not in charge here. But I control myself. In a calm voice, I say, I think I need to get some rest. I'll eat later. As I leave the table, Mom looks suddenly worried and Dad looks confused. Dr. Van Dorn seems embarrassed, so he looks down at his precious stack of data. And I'm alone in my room, alone. Mom and Dad are down there, spoons clinking on their bowls, ladling out soup for their uninvited dinner guest, their fellow conspirator. And I'm alone. I want you to notice the repetition at the end of this chapter. How many different times in these last 3 paragraphs he says the words, I'm alone. Because he really wants you to understand how alone he feels right now in so many different ways. That's repetition. It gives it a more dramatic feel rather than him just saying it once. It's something that good writers use to drive a point home. Anyway, that was the end of chapter 25.